And Parashas Sisah starts with the counting of Klal Yisrael, that each person should give kofa nafshel Hashem bifkodosam v'loya b'em negev, that they gave the machzis shekel, and therefore there would not be they would not be killed, they would not die out in a plague. The understanding is that anytime you count people, counting of the people puts them in danger, and there's a horror or something or other that puts them in danger. And so it was when David HaMelech counted them, and they also suffered because of it. So and the way to get around it was the V'nosna ish kofa nafshel Hashem liyabim negev, that each person would be counted, and they would give Masa Shekel, and they would not have this curse, plague, or whatever. So why is it that's what happens? I mean, it's not a skula, it's not superstition, has shown. This is a halacha, and it's something that is, the Torah makes a big point about it. So he says the following. So Rabbi Chaya explains the following. HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world with different midos. And in general, in the big picture, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the world to continue, to survive, to be. He wants Klal Yisrael to survive, to continue to be. And therefore, even though they may have done wrong or something like that effect, still the overriding midah is the midas harachmim, and that's the midah that at the end will always win out, because it's something that is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. There is a promise after the Mabul that the world will not be destroyed. There's a promise that Klal Yisrael will be eternal, and there's a promise that every shevet, the Gemara says, every tribe also is eternal. But that's it. So the world, Klal Yisrael, and every shevet has an assurance that it's that the midas harachmim will tide it over the most difficult of periods. When a person stands out, he's now judged on himself, on his own merit. He's no longer can enjoy the merit of Klal Yisrael, because he's identified himself as being his own person. And therefore, he now is judged, does he deserve it? That judging is a very strict judging, because there is no promise to any one person that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will ultimately work with Rachmim and not with Din. So a person that takes himself out of the klal. So when we count a person, then we are saying Reb so and so. He brings a pasuk. It says that when Elisha asked the Shunamis, "Is there anything that you would need, and maybe I can do it for you? I can be mispal for you." She answered, "B'toch ami anochi yosheves." I'm with everybody else together. He explains that since it was Rosh Hashanah, and there was Yom Adin, was a very, very, Rosh Hashanah is a very big Yom Adin, it's the Yom Adin. She did not want to stick out or stand out, because in that case, she would be judged to see, can she not? And that's taking a terrible risk. So whatever benefit the tefillah of Elisha would have, it would be lost in now taking note of this Isha Shinamis, if she was worthy or not. He brings the same thing in Sefer Rus. It says Vayelech Ish mi Beis Lechem Yehuda. It doesn't say, it's just a person. And then it says Vishem Ish Elimelech, and then it says Ayamis Elimelech. In other words, Elimelech was part of Klal Yisrael. He left Israel, and then he stood out. He was an individual, and therefore he died. That's how Rabbi Chaya explains it. So he says that the reason for the plague that happened, the reason for dying is because when a person steps out of the klal, he becomes a yachid, and therefore he is judged purely on personal merit and vote onto the person that's judged on pure merit, and so on. As a side point, my Rabbi Chaim Shmulevitz would have a very powerful shmuz that he said a few times about the need to be part of a klal. People, he said over in the war, the people that stuck together with the yeshiva were saved. The few people who thought they could make it on their own were not saved, unfortunately. The best Bach in the yeshiva, Ren Minska, was killed because he felt he had papers that he could get out on his own and didn't succeed. So he would speak about that. He would also speak about the people who go off on their own, learn on their own, not in the context of yeshiva. It's very, very scary because there's this midas hadin, and so on. That was a very, very fundamental point, that when a person stands out on his own, he brought the Chazal about Yeshua, that Yeshua got the man for extraordinary schusim that he had, even though he left the machne to go and serve Moshe Rabbeinu. You can't get a better reason for it, but still, it meant you were leaving the klal, and that's always dangerous, and therefore he needed very special schusim. That was how he would explain it. But I want to get back to Rabbeinu Bechai a minute, his point, who basically says the same point. So how does this rectify it? It says, so two ways in which a person can, which we can understand why this was a way to avoid the challenge of being counted alone. One is that this was in other words, normally when I select a person out of a crowd and I say, let's give a special recognition to Reuven or to Shimon, I'm elevating him above the crowd, and therefore it draws the question, is he worthy or not? But if I am stepping out and saying, I don't deserve, I need to bring a kapara, kofa nefesh, then what I'm doing is I'm saying I'm less worthy than a klal, and that's also a way to get under the radar screen, so to speak. So for the very reason that counting people individually it poses a challenge and puts a person in sakana, this is the opposite, and the person is humbler than the klal, and therefore he goes, so to speak, unnoticed, or it sort of is protects him and so on. Another possibility is, because this is a counting of Klal Yisrael, I'm not being counted as myself. I'm not saying Reuven as Reuven, Shimon as Shimon. I'm saying Reuven, the member of Klal Yisrael, Shimon, the member of Klal Yisrael. This counting over here is actually placing the person back into the klal. It's a way of tagging him into the klal. It's a way of integrating him into the klal, and therefore the person gets to be part of the klal. So we have over here Parsha and Torah that tells us that counting people individually, that any individual count puts the person at risk and danger. Rabbi Bechaya explains that that's because the tzibur as a tzibur has a hanhaga of rachmim. It's something that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is it makes them Kadosh Baruch Hu wants them to survive, and therefore anyone who's part of the klal survives. When you step out and try to do things on your own merit, or you sort of draw attention, so to speak, then a person faces an incredible midas adin, yes or no, am I worthy or not? And therefore the person is taking a tremendous risk. Counting it to the way we did it by giving matzis a shekel and lebem neged b'kodosom, we explain two possible ways. One is the fact that he's giving it in a way that is kofa nefesh. It's a humbling of oneself. It's not saying I'm standing up for everyone, but I'm not even worthy to be part of the klal, so to speak. That's one reason. And second reason is, since this is accounting to integrate him as part of the klal, that's what the counting is. Therefore, it does not carry in itself that risk.